It's always great. So welcome everyone to our first student case study. I'm so excited to do that today with one of our students from the German Fluency Academy, Carl, and we have a lot of people tuning in from all over the world today. And I'm curious to know where you are all based at. I'm located in the beautiful Taunus region, close to Frankfurt. It's been getting really cold these days. We've just had a little chat about that. How winter has definitely arrived, and I'm curious to know where you all are tuning in from. So don't be shy, say hi in the comments and share where you are joining us today. Also, feel free to ask any questions that might pop up during the live stream that you either want to ask me or Carl about his journey. And in case you don't know who I am, I'm Salome, a native German teacher from near Frankfurt, as I've mentioned. And I'm also the creator of the German Fluency Academy, where I help people go from absolutely no knowledge of German to being confident and conversational in the language. And yeah, I'm really excited for this student case study that we're doing today, because I'll be chatting with one of my students, Carl, who started learning German with us in the academy at the beginning of April. And since then, he has made huge improvements in his pronunciation and speaking skills. So we'll be diving into his journey. So don't hesitate to ask any questions in the chat. If you have any, that's exactly what we're here for today. And if you live outside of the German-speaking countries and are looking for tips on how to immerse yourself in the language, Carl will surely have some valuable insights to share with you today, as he is based in Canada and was still able to make amazing progress in a fairly short amount of time. And yeah, this is our very first student interview, and I'm really excited to share it with you. My hope for today's interview is that it will inspire and motivate you to either start learning German too, or to get back on track if you've been feeling like you're in a bit of a slump. And yeah, the goal of this live session is to inspire you with a real life story from someone just like you, who has made great progress and now feels comfortable interacting in German. It's a huge challenge, but it's not impossible. And that's the key takeaway I want you to get from today's live interview. We'll talk about Carl's journey, why he's learning German, where he started, where he's at now, and how he got there. So again, the main purpose of today's session is to inspire as many of you as possible to start learning or to get back on track and pick up some helpful tips along the way. And if you're just tuning in and you don't know who I am, I'm Salome, the host of the Speak Fluent German YouTube channel, where I share weekly lessons on mainly practical German for beginner learners. And I'm also the creator of the German Fluency Academy, an online course and community that will take you from your very first words all the way to having conversations with native speakers. And this is how I met Carl, who is one of my students. And today we'll be talking all about his experience learning German. So let's go ahead and add him to the stream so we can hear his story. Okay, welcome, Carl. Can you hear me still? Is it
Yes, I can.
also working? Okay, awesome. Amazing. So thank you so much for doing this live interview with us today. I'm so excited to share your story. And obviously, I know who you are. I've been working with you for some months now. But for those who don't know who you are, would it be okay to tell us a little bit about yourself and also share why you learn German?
Certainly. Yeah, so I live on Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada, and I've been retired now for the last 5 years. So I did work in the chemical industry with specialty chemical coatings, and we sold a lot of that into the craft paint hardware industries throughout North America and actually around the world. Um,
Mhm.
and since I've retired, one of the things that I've always wanted to do was to learn German. It was my father's language. Unfortunately, he didn't pass it on. He spoke very little of it, and it was something that I always wanted to learn because of that. And so I have had the opportunity now to do that in retirement. And yeah, I've made it a bit of a priority. The other part of this is I've also been doing a lot of ancestry research into my father's family. And I've traced back to Hennental near Frankfurt. And that's been the other part of this is learning my ancestral family language and being able to look at documents from those areas that are mostly in German and being able to understand them. So this has helped. It's helped a great
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah, that's really amazing, and I think this is a really unique, why you're learning German. Most people, also learn German to be able to like relocate here at some point, but you actually have like family connections and roots to Germany, which is really interesting. And yeah, as you've mentioned, you've really amazed me with like the amount of work you've done into researching your heritage and learning more about the history of your family. Why do you think learning German is so important for reconnecting with your heritage and understanding your family's history? Why has that been a priority for you?
I've just, I guess I've always been very curious about my father's family. Um, my grandparents, my father's parents weren't around us that much when I was growing up, and so I didn't
Mhm.
really have an opportunity to connect well with them. Um, and that's because they lived in another area. So, and when we did visit with them, they had such heavy accents that I had a hard time understanding them, and that
Okay.
really was yeah, a bit of a problem. But I always wanted to know more, and so eh, doing this ancestry research and family research has certainly led me on a path back to Germany, and and the more I researched, the more I wanted to learn the language. And be able to at someday pass it on. And actually, I have a little granddaughter now who's 3, who is my student,
Yeah.
and she's doing quite well with her colors and numbers and some basic things like please and no and things, just some basic stuff that we
Yeah.
have fun with. So yeah.
Yeah, and I love the way you also, made her a part of the learning journey. We'll definitely dive more into that in a bit because you have some lovely stories to share with us in regards to that. And yeah, I was wondering, let's rewind a little bit and take us back also maybe to the beginning stages of your German language learning journey. What challenges did you face when you first started learning German?
Yeah, I think this probably pretty much everyone goes through the same thing.
For sure.
Is the some of the words appear to be difficult to pronounce, and are in a lot of cases until you hear somebody actually pronounce them. And so it's so important to have uh, someone with a German background or a native speaker speak and be able to understand what they're saying and hear them. And you know, I, I worked with some different software programs that just didn't work.
Hmm.
They don't give you the same feedback or any feedback. And so for me, it was important to hear the proper pronunciation and then being able to say these words based on that, and which I've been able to do. Um, and yeah, it's just pronunciation. And then the other thing was getting up in front of somebody and speaking German and then be feeling like, oh no, am I saying this correctly? And do I look like an idiot? And that type of thing. And I finally got past that. And one of the things that really helped, um, besides your school, which you've been very patient with me and helped me out so much with pronunciations. It's been great. Getting that live feedback has been so important. I have a good friend that Sabine, who has helped me out as well. She's from Germany. She now lives in Canada. She went through just the opposite of learning English as opposed to
Yeah.
German. And so she said, most people are understanding and patient, and if you make the effort, um, they'll most likely understand what you're saying. You may not be saying it correctly, but yeah, they'll they'll go along with what you're saying, and they may even help you at some point. But once I got past that point of thinking, okay, I'm probably not going to say this perfectly, but I'm going to give it my best shot. Once I did that,
Yeah.
it was like day and night. It made all
It
the
clicked.
difference. It just made all the difference. And from that point on, it's like, yeah, okay, I may not be saying correctly, but
Yeah.
they pretty much understand what I'm saying, or at least
Yeah.
they have a good idea of what I'm trying to say. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people can definitely resonate with that. Like pronunciation is one big part, of course, that comes with, or that is important to build up that confidence in speaking. Like knowing what you're saying is actually being understood. Obviously, helps a lot with boosting your confidence and speaking more. But I think also the second part that you've mentioned, like the mindset struggle in the beginning, is huge as well. Like a lot of people, especially who are learning a language as an adult might have that fear of like making mistakes and sounding maybe stupid. So I think a lot of people go through that in the beginning, and that's one of the things, yeah, we definitely focus on a lot inside the German Fluency Academy, really making sure like the pronunciation is on point, because that is the very first step to becoming a confident speaker. Like we can learn all the grammar and vocabulary that we want. If people don't understand us, at the end of the day, it can be very frustrating. So that's yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people can definitely relate to that. What do you feel like were like the improvements that you've made on your German language skills after joining the German Fluency Academy?
Um, well, pronunciation would probably be number one. Um,
Hmm.
that has been very, very helpful, and the confidence to be able to properly pronounce words. And you've given me a lot of confidence in that. We've gone back and forth a few times with the recorded words through SpeakPipe and that, and yeah, some that I did okay, and others not so well. And you were able to say, okay, yeah, you need to tweak it here or there, but you're definitely on the right path. So that really helped. And grammar has been the other part of it, and working through the modules has really helped. It's given me some guidance what I need to
Hmm.
work on, uh, and that has been very, very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I feel like the guidance part is, I feel like now more than ever even more important, because we do have a lot of resources out there for high standard German, and sometimes that's the struggling part, or that's the challenging part. Like where should you even start? Like how should you structure it? Because there is just so much out there that sometimes it can get overwhelming of just knowing, okay, how can I be the most efficient with it? Because obviously you also want to make progress, but in the right way, and not wasting your time with stuff that might not work. So yeah, that's like the pronunciation part is definitely a huge thing that we were being able to work through this year. And yeah, for anyone who has just tuned in, I'm here with my student Carl from Canada, who is learning German and who is sharing his story to give you the confidence to do the same. He started more or less like from scratch when we first met, and
Yeah.
now he's making such good progress. I still remember our very first call back then. It's been a few months, but I haven't forgotten about it. And since then, you've also traveled around Germany and you've been able to interact with locals. But yeah, and we're going to share more about that in a second. And if that is something you want to be able to do as well, you can go to speakfluentgerman.com/apply. Where you can directly book a call with me. And I would love to hear all about your goals with learning German. And then we will evaluate together if this is a good fit. And then you could be joining us inside the academy. Carl went through the same thing, and now we're here. And yeah, and you've been traveling around to Germany this year. How did your trip to Germany go, and how was it like interacting with people in German? Can you tell us a bit about your experience?
Yeah, it was a great experience, and I think this time around for me, more so than any other trip I've taken, was the fact that I could speak a bit of the language, and that made such a difference. And for me, it was just it was a great experience to, for instance, walked into a bakery one day, and I ordered some pretzels
Yeah,
and a cinnamon roll, some basic
amazing.
things, and I had. I'd given some thought about what I was going to say and how I was going to say it, and I walked up to the counter, and the lady there helped me out, and I said in German what I wanted, and she just smiled and took my order. Um, and then she told me the total that I owed, and I handed her some euros, and she handed me back my change and my order, and I was off and running. And I
Yeah.
was I was so happy and so pleased with the fact that I was able to order in German. She knew exactly what I was saying. I knew what she was saying when she handed back my change and the total on that. And it was a great feeling. It just made my day. And in
Yeah.
fact, we went on a high speed train trip after that, and I think I was beaming most of the day. So
Well, that's so amazing to hear, and that's exactly like what I'm all about as well. Like these practical interactions and really being able to navigate daily life, and also acknowledging that is so important for long term success as well. And sometimes I feel like people also like don't really pay that much attention to these small wins, but as you know, we love to celebrate all of the wins, especially the small ones, because they are going to add up, and then eventually you will have an interaction like Carl had in the bakery. And you also had another situation at the supermarket, you've told me, right, where a lady might have
oh
intentionally or unintentionally tried to skip the line.
yeah,
And you made a point there and communicated with
yeah,
her in German. And I feel like a lot of people would have been too scared to say something. But what were your thoughts going through
yeah.
your mind?
So my wife and I were in a little shop, and we were standing in the line in the queue, and my wife was getting ready to pay, and this lady, for whatever reasons, just cut between my wife and I and stood
Hmm.
there. And I'm just thinking, oh, okay, I've been wanting to say "es should have gone bitte." It was my opportunity, which I then said, "It should have gone bitte." And she kind of turned and looked at me and stepped aside. And it was like, yeah, she
Yeah,
knew
it
exactly
worked.
what I was saying. It worked. And
Okay.
it was, yeah, it was a good feeling. So I had a few other opportunities in which to speak at other little shops and restaurants and that, and it was a good feeling. I actually had a few people on our tour that came to me after and started asking me to do a little interpretation for them.
Wow.
I kind of laughed. I said, "Well, I'll do what I can for you," but it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds so amazing. I'm so glad that you received so much positive feedback with like from the people that you interacted with, but also from the tour, like the people on the tour. And I think you've really mastered this mindset part in terms of like applying the language and really just going for it. Like, how did you overcome this fear of making mistakes, or having these thoughts, oh, what are people going to think, or am I going to sound stupid? Like, how did you overcome that? Because I know a lot of the people that are watching today, or this interview, or who go through the same journey, have exactly this challenge that they need to overcome, and this
Mm.
inner talk maybe with themselves, like, oh, am I good enough, am I saying the right things, are people going to understand me, or am I making a fool out of myself? And you just went for it. Like, no matter like the situation. And yeah, I really would love to hear, how did you do that?
Yeah, well, partly uh, part of that confidence was what I gained from you and the feedback that I got from you at times when I would, pronounce words, and we had lots of little discussions from time to time, and so that was a good part of that. The other part of it was, again, my friend Sabine, who said, Carl, she said, yeah, you probably say some things incorrectly, but that's okay. Most people are understanding and they'll understand you. And so I got to think, I want to do this. And so I probably am not going to say everything 100%. Yeah, it's going to be one of those things that over time, my German will get better, and I know that, so I'm just going to go for it. Um,
Yeah.
and chances are I'm probably never going to see most of these people again. So it's like,
that's that's a good way to think about that.
so so I just had fun with it, and once I did it after the bakery, it was like, okay, I can do this and I'm going to do it. And I had fun with it. And I, in fact, at one restaurant, we were sitting there and my wife and I ordered, and of course we had menus to look at and read from. So that made things easier
Hmm.
than trying to pull it up from memory. But, and the waitress, I could tell probably was from another country, and she understood what I was saying in German. And at one point, I looked at her and said, and I kind of apologized. I said in German, I said, my German's probably not the best. And
Yeah.
and then she just said to me in German, she said, that's okay. Is a hard language to learn.
Yeah,
And I
don't
understood
be
what she was saying. And we were both on the same wavelength, and she understood and appreciated my efforts. And that's one of the things that I did notice from time to time is people really appreciated the effort,
yeah.
and that was helpful as well.
Yeah.
Because and I know a lot of young people in Germany speak English, but I made a point of speaking German. I didn't want to speak English unless I had to. Um, but the fact that they appreciated the fact that I was making the attempt went a long ways.
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely love that mindset, and you're very much on the right track. I always say, like, there is no way around it. You just have to go through it, and it does become easier and easier. Like, you just have to get over that first hurdle and then realize, "Oh, okay, I'm still fine." Like, no,
Yeah.
I didn't get hurt through that experience. Everything is still like this, the world is still turning, right?
Yep.
And then from there you get just better and better step by step, and it does take a little bit of courage in the beginning, but it does take better and as get better. And as you've said, a lot of people do appreciate that people are trying to learn, because we Germans also know that German is not easy. So
Yeah.
that's, yeah, that you're definitely on the right track with that. And what I also love about your German language learning journey so far is the way you manage to incorporate learning German into your daily life. So I know that a lot of people are struggling with finding the time to study. And my biggest advice is really to make it part of your daily routine. Like, for example, with the post-it challenge that I've shared a
Yes.
couple of times, with sticking post-its around the house, with helping you to learn and memorize new words. And you, Carl, or I should say your granddaughter, Addie, actually took it one step
She
further. So I
did.
just quickly wanted to share this. What can you tell us about this story right here?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things I wanted to do was obviously go around the house and learn the different components, the names in German. So I use these little post-it sticky notes, as you can
Yes,
see, everywhere, and
everywhere.
I had fun with it. And my granddaughter was really into this. She liked the colors of the post-it notes, and obviously, she's not able to read at this point, but she had fun with it too, because she, at one point, decided to take into a mix and match on me. And so one morning I get up and I'm looking around. I'm going, wait a minute.
The
This
post-its
the
are not
post-it
right.
notes are, yeah, they've been moved, and she had fun rearranging them, which was kind of a fun exercise for me, because then I had to take and put them back in the right place. So
Right.
it made it fun. It made it fun for her, made it fun for me, and we
Yeah.
both got a good laugh out of it.
Yeah,
Um,
awesome. And that's exactly what is it's all about. Like I feel like a lot of people also think when they think of learning German that it's only tedious grammar drills, it's long lists of vocabulary that you need to memorize, and they kind of forget about making it enjoyable for themselves. And I feel like you've done a really good job with also getting Addie involved in that with different kinds of activities. And speaking of that, I do also want to share a snippet of a pronunciation challenge we did recently inside our community. So, for those who don't know, the German Fluency Academy is not only an online course. I'm just going to bring us back here. It's not only an online course, it's actually also a community where we do regular speaking pronunciation activities to help you build the confidence in your conversational skills. And in one of our recent activities, our students were supposed to read out a German text of any kind. It could be anything from a song lyric to a recipe to a children's book. And then we would analyze it and give feedback. And well, Carl, you went ahead and actually wrote your own story about Addie, which was absolutely lovely because I always tell people, as I've mentioned earlier, you need to make the learning journey relevant to your life and the things that you love to talk about, because then it's first of all much easier to stay consistent if you're enjoying what you're doing, but also you're retaining new vocabulary a lot easier as well because you're learning it in context. And context is really key in order to make those words stick compared to just trying to memorize random words from a list that you are never going to use. So, Carl, we're going to hear a snippet of the story that you shared about Eddie inside our community. I know it's hard to listen to your own voice. All of us
yeah.
need to overcome this challenge in the beginning when they join us, but trust me, it gets a lot easier. So thank you, Carl, for letting us share this on here.
Mädchen namens Addie. Addie ist ein kleines Mädchen, das 3 Jahre alt ist. Sie liebt Puppen und ihre 2 Beagle-Hunde, Sammy und Max. Addie liebt es draußen zu sein, wo sie auf
Oh, we paused
Stop.
there.
Diese Geschichte handelt
Nochmal.
von einem kleinen Mädchen namens Addie. Addie ist ein kleines Mädchen, das 3 Jahre alt ist. Sie liebt Puppen und ihre 2 Beagle-Hunde, Sammy und Max. Addie liebt es draußen zu sein, wo sie auf
Oh, yeah, it stopped right there. Do you want to continue the rest of Ihrem Spielset spielen kann?
Oh no. No.
Well, yeah, that's the thing about these live streams. I'm not quite sure why it stopped there. Maybe there was some parts that cut off. But anyways, that was a snippet of the story. Absolutely lovely, and I also loved, the idea of incorporating some of the vocabulary that you wanted to learn into that story. So, how does it feel like listening to this and thinking about how far you've come, Carl?
Yeah, it's a good feeling. Um, I listen to myself and go, "Wow, I can do better."
I think
So,
everybody would think that about themselves. That we're
yeah,
our own biggest critics, as people say.
but I look back, to April when I first started and to where I am now. And in fact, this is probably one of the things that really, uh, for me, on the trip that I made to Germany, I just can't even put it into words, but it was so important to me to go there, hear people speak, and to be part of the community, talking with people. Um, to be able to speak a bit of German was just, for me, it was amazing. And it's something that I had always wanted to do. I was able to do it. I proved to myself that I could do it. I knew I could if I just put the effort into it.
Yeah,
And I decided to do that. And it, you know, I know there's been times when I, like everyone else, I have my moments. I'm going, crap, I can't, I can't get past this point.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
I put it down and I leave it alone for a bit. Then I come back to it later, and then it works, and I go on from there. And so I've had my struggles just like everyone else. Um, but you've been a good part of helping work through these areas when I've had problems, and your feedback has been very instrumental in helping me. Um, and often just the fact that your encouragement has helped me move on. And yeah, that's been very important. So
Yeah. Yeah, so as I've mentioned, like I feel like consistency is one of the biggest key factors when it comes to really improving in anything. And people oftentimes think like, oh, it's a specific book that you need to get or a specific thing that you need to do. Actually, it's all combined and staying consistent and putting in the effort. And I think you've done a really good job with that. As I've mentioned to you earlier, you are actually one of our most consistent students. You show up every week, you do the work, you submit your recordings, you ask for the feedback, so you're doing all of the right things, and it really pays off. So
yeah,
so that's definitely a huge thing also that you're putting in the effort, because I can teach all I want if the students don't follow along. It's not going anywhere. So you've been also very very hardworking these past few months. And yeah, what would you say to someone who thinks they might be too old to learn German? How has learning German like improved your life? Because I know a lot of people might feel like, oh, I'm an adult, it's much harder to learn new languages, and I might not be able to do it. They might have like this fear of overcoming all of these challenges. What would you say to that person who thinks they might be too old to do
yeah.
studying?
I don't think anyone that's is too old. I think that I'm retired. Um, I've made it a point as a hobby at this point, and I've made it a point to enjoy it. And it's a mindset more than anything that uh, you reach a certain age so you can't learn anything. That's not true. I
No.
I find it a challenge, and I like good challenges, and I like to kind of push myself from time to time. Um, I have found my memory capabilities have improved over the last few months overall, not just
Hmm.
with learning German or a new language, but just overall, my memory has improved. And that for me has been noticeable. And I think my wife has made a few comments on that as well. But so that's been good. And, I kind of look forward to each day coming into my office and spending an hour or two, if I have, working on learning and having some fun with it. And if I'm not able to do that wherever I'm at, if I'm out in the yard or gardening or something, I try to think about, okay, what is the German name of this plant or
Yeah.
this, the tree or whatever. And so I'm making a point of trying to incorporate as much as I can. And yeah, so throughout the house during the day, at times will speak German to my wife, who doesn't speak any German or just a few words, and and she is fine with that to a point at times, but and then
And
my
she
little
also
granddaughter,
picked up some words as well, right? Like
she did.
as you were here, and as you're like teaching Addie, she's also like, your wife is also picking up some words.
She is, and it's and at first she kind of pushed back at me, like it's like, no, I don't want to learn German, and then but I've noticed that she has, and she's
Right.
she, so yeah, she's learned a few words, and with our granddaughter who's picking them up quite quickly. um and I know my wife the other day said something about Addie picking up some words, and my wife pronounced these words very clearly, and I looked at her going, oh wow, you're learning
You've
some
been
German, you're paying attention. And she
yeah,
just laughed. So
yeah.
yeah,
That's
and
awesome that you're kind of yeah, go ahead, sorry.
yeah, no, I knew that would happen probably over time, and it's exactly what is happening. Um,
Yeah. The
So
fun you're having basically is contagious to everyone who is like in your house. they
yeah,
just uh, they just join in. And yeah, I've mentioned earlier that even though you traveled through around like Germany this summer, you're not based in Germany, right? You're based in Canada. So do you have any tips for learning German, especially for people who are outside of Germany, who might feel like, oh, I will never, be able to immerse myself in the language fully? But you've done a really great job with that, with different kinds of tools and things like that. So do you have any tips for learning German outside of German speaking
yeah,
countries?
um, yeah. It's been a challenge because I have no one around me to speak German with, which I wish I did. And if I was so fortunate to live in Germany, it would be so much easier. Um,
Right.
your students who live in Germany have just to me, it's a library of grammar and people to talk to. I would so much love that, but here I don't have anyone close by. I do have family members that speak German, but they're off at a distance, so that doesn't help. So what I have done is uh, I've used Memrise as one of the
Mm-hmm.
programs, which has native speakers speaking short, either just single words or little phrases. I find that a very useful tool. I do that in the evenings every day. I usually will, do 5 or 6 words or whatever it has, and then I'll pause and do the another one the next day. And it keeps track of the words that you've learned, which is very beneficial. It's been so beneficial to be able to hear the words. Uh, and then on top of that, I've uh, obtained LingoPie, which is another software program that has TV shows. And
Yeah.
so again, in the evening, I will listen to that for usually about an hour. And the advantage with that is there's a multitude of shows in there that you can choose from. Some are more advanced than others as far as the actual words, but with that, as you're listening and watching the show, the um, the information, the words are posted up on the screen, and so you can just reach up and touch. Uh, I'm on an iPad, so I touch the word that I'm interested in, and it will keep track of that. It'll say the word out.
Yeah.
And it'll quiz you at the end about those words that you've learned, and which I find is a very useful tool. But again, to be able to hear the words being spoken by native speakers. Another little program that I use is Forvo, which is an online dictionary spoken in
Mm-hmm.
German. And so words that I'm learning, if I'm not sure how to say them, I will go to that, type in the word, listen to. Usually, there's several native German speakers who will speak those words for you. So
Mm-hmm.
that has been very beneficial. So it's been programs like that that I have, but also the fact that you and I are through your uh, workshops quite
Mm-hmm.
often have a multitude of words. So I'm always going back to those words that we've learned through the different modules and using programs like Quizlet to go into where you've posted these words to learn them and where you've recorded how to say the words properly. And again, I can sit there and play that over and over and over, and then sometimes repeat the word as you're saying it or
Yeah.
someone is saying them. And that really helps train my ear to hear how to say the word. And being an English speaker, some German words are very difficult, I find, and
Yeah.
I I'm probably no different than most. I tend to trip up on certain words and sounds, but yeah, you slowly work through it, and you finally
Yeah.
get there. And I know one of them was the rolling R, which I found very difficult, um, but I think I've done okay with that, and yeah, so I can say wrote or some of these words now with the
Yeah.
that R,
What?
and
Yeah.
I haven't totally mastered it, but I'm getting better at it. So
You've definitely improved your pronunciation by far this month, and I mean this couple of months, and I feel like a part of that is really doing the work that you've been doing and staying consistent with that. And yeah, a good point you've mentioned there is with the Quizlet flashcards. Like I really made a point there to actually record all of those by myself because the like Quizlet comes with the computer sound or voice, and we still have that for the English words, and it sounded absolutely
Yeah.
terrible. So I was like, nope, we're not doing that. I'll sit down and record all of the words so that like people actually hear how it's supposed to sound properly, because otherwise you're picking up the wrong pronunciation, and it's really difficult to correct that later on. Like it's easier to kind of build it from the ground up rather than having bad habits that you need to then correct later down the line. And I also love the fact like how you were able to use all of these different kinds of platforms to make it enjoyable for yourself, to find resources that you really like, while also having some sort of structure, right? Like as I've mentioned earlier, I feel like the biggest challenge nowadays is that there is so much stuff out there that it's sometimes a bit difficult to not like lose sight or lose or like basically get lost in everything. So I think you've done a really good job of having balance in there, having the structure while also making it fun and using different kinds of platforms. What I'm curious about is why, like we had the, the application call as well, where we talked about your goals, where you would like your German language skills to be at, what your whys and all of that. Why did you end up deciding to join the German Fluency Academy?
Well, I had, as I mentioned to you before, I had tried to use Rosetta Stone and a few other programs like that. Um, they just don't work. You don't get feedback. If you're trying to pronounce a word and there's no feedback, um, you don't get anywhere. You get discouraged. And I
Right.
was getting so discouraged from trying to use some of these different programs. I think they can be used as an assistant, but no, I just found for me, they didn't work.
Hmm.
I spent a lot of time trying to work through these different programs. And in the end, I didn't learn much of anything from them other than I felt
Mm.
frustrated. And so I felt I really need to then turn to someone like yourself with your academy and learn from a live speaker as opposed to an app. And
Right.
so that was my decision. And I did look around. I spent actually quite a bit of time researching, and I narrowed it
As you
down.
always do, right?
I over research, yes, but I finally kind of narrowed it down, and yeah, I decided to contact you and go from there. And I did look at other uh, companies, language institutes in Germany that or schools, and I really felt you put together the best program. Um,
Oh,
it
thank
wasn't
you.
just a short segment. It was looked like it was going to be a complete program, um, which is something that I wanted. And yeah, so I made the decision after doing a fair amount of research that what you offered was probably the best bet for me.
Well, thank you so much for saying that, Carlin. After being with us for a couple of months now, since April to be more
Yeah.
precise, would you recommend the German Fluency Academy? How has your experience been so far?
Yeah, I definitely would. I have actually recommended you more than once, actually several times to several different people. In
Oh,
fact,
thank you.
one of the strange experiences I had on my trip, if I can just elaborate real quickly here, um, is that I met another couple on our tour. This was a bus tour that we were on. And as we were sitting across from each other one day and we're just chatting it up, and I said that my family was from Germany, and they were also saying their family was from Germany, and we started comparing notes. Long story short, we found out we're cousins. We're fourth cousins, It was
Yeah,
it
right.
was a bizarre thing. I mean, it was just totally unexpected. Uh, the lady asked me my last name. I told her it was Becker, and she looked at me and said, "Well, that's my mother's maiden name." And so we kind of went from there. And then the other surprising thing was, um, she's a twin. She has a twin sister, and I have a twin sister, which was again rather
It's such
interesting.
a huge
So
coincidence.
yeah. So and twins do run in the family. So it was yeah. So anyway, where I'm going with this is I have recommended my cousin asked me who I would recommend to learn German. She knew I was learning some German, and I told her about you and your school.
Oh,
So
thank you.
yeah, so and I've told others, as well that I'm having a good experience, and I would highly recommend it. And partly because of being able to work with a live person and the feedback. It's so important. You're just not getting feedback from, and you won't get feedback from a little app. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So rather than getting frustrated with trying to work through an app and thinking that you might have said the word correctly and maybe you did or
Mm.
maybe you didn't, it's nice to have the feedback from someone that actually speaks proper German. So yeah.
Well, thank you for saying that. And I mean, you've also done like some of your research on like how to pronounce different words. And I always love the fact that you bring these to the live calls as well, and we're like, oh, I've actually heard that person pronounce it that way. Is that a regional difference, or is that like proper German, or what is that all about? So, I guess that's also a huge key factor, that you can bring questions from like other resources as well that you're learning along the way, and just knowing that you have that support is definitely huge. And yeah, thank you so much, Carl. I wouldn't be able to do this without you also putting in the effort to learn. So you've been definitely a star student, and for sure one of our most consistent students, as I've mentioned, who really overcame like one challenge at a time. You took it one step at a time, and it's been
Yep.
really amazing seeing you grow, and yeah, taking it step by step. So I'm really proud of you. Ich bin sehr, sehr stolz auf dich and what you have accomplished this year. So I had to have you on here today and share your story. Thank you so much again for doing that. And it's been lovely chatting with you today. And I'm sure you have inspired many others today to get started with learning German too. If you do want to join us inside the German Fluency Academy, you can book a call with me directly at speakfluentgerman.com/apply, where we'll chat more about your goals with learning German and see if this is a good fit. I do focus mainly on beginner learners and take them from the very first words all the way up to becoming conversational. So again, Carl, thank you so much. I will see you inside the community. We'll have our next live call tomorrow, actually. So
I know.
looking forward to seeing you in there. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I do actually. I really enjoy the workshops. I look forward to them. They're they're always full of good information, whether it's something that I've brought up or somebody else has. But I learn so much every time from the workshops. To me, they're so important. And again, you're not going to get that from an app. It just isn't going to happen. Um, so yeah, the workshops are so important. Thank you
Yeah,
for
and
doing them.
yeah, for sure. And you showing up every single week is also important. So 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 that's great. Yeah, I mean, we do have these live workshops to really make sure our students are supported, and I think it's really important to have that support system, because a lot of what we've talked about today is that language learning is not just about the grammar drills, it's not just about memorizing vocabulary, it's also a lot of the mindset part, and just knowing that you have a solid support system that is also going to help you get back on track, maybe after taking a break for whatever reason, life happens, right? And I see a lot of people kind of struggle with exactly that. They might have like a streak of learning for a couple of weeks, and then they have to go on a business trip or holidays, or something happens, and then it's really hard to get back on track. And I think just having this support system and this community really helps to make getting back on track and staying consistent also easy. And yeah, just being able to show up every single week. So
Absolutely.
really, really excited for that. Okay, well, thank you so much again, Carl. Ich wünsche dir noch einen schönen Tag. Have a good day ahead. I know it's the morning
Okay.
time in Canada right now, so thank you so much for joining this morning, und I'll see you tomorrow. Mach's gut. Tschüss, Karl.
Tschüss.